Prayer. Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. If we could salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armand Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Broderick. Mayor Caulfield. Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Here.
Councilor Lenzi. 8 present.
I'd like to, the chair recognizes Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I would like to request of my colleagues a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Dot Baker. Dot Baker passed away the other day. She was a former Housing Authority employee for over 30 years. She was well loved by both the residents and by the employees of the Housing Authority. Dot leaves 5 children and 14 grandchildren, and she will be missed. Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I would also like to offer a moment of silence in darkened chamber for 2 people who passed away this week. John Garabed Magarian, a resident of the city of Lowell for many years. John was a member of the Armenian Church in Chelmsford, having served there as a deacon, a choir master, and a soloist. He also performed in many local opera productions. I recall that he also invited or challenged Mayor Bud Caulfield and myself one New Year's Eve to perform on the stage to sing opera with the Lowell Opera Company, which was quite a challenge, but he got us to do it, and we actually did. Mr. Magarian also addressed this council, as many of you will know, for many years to remind everyone of upcoming Armenian flag-raising ceremonies, one of which we'll be having on Saturday, April 19th. He would have been here next Tuesday reminding us of this very special day. As you know, he will be truly missed. And I'd like to offer the same for the father of our city auditor, Cheryl Wright. Her father passed away. That's why she's not here this evening. I didn't know the gentleman, but we all offer our condolences to Cheryl and her family. Could we please rise and dim the lights? Thank you. Before we begin the City Council meeting this evening, we have a very special guest, Bob Ethier. He will explain the upcoming event for the Renaissance Club and give you a little idea what the Renaissance Club is all about. I know that the event is a bowl-a-thon, and it's on Thursday, May 15th, from 1 to 3 at Brunswick. Bob, the floor is yours.
That serves adults with mental illness in Greater Lowell. We are, as a certified member of the International Center for Clubhouse Development, composed of over 400 clubhouses throughout the world. Renaissance Club provides a supportive community for individual recovery from mental illness. Our community is a safe place where members can form lasting relationships with others and build all those relationships to become more vocationally and socially active in the clubhouse and in the world. You are invited to participate in the 5th annual Bowl for Mental Health Surge of Empowerment Bowl-a-thon on Thursday, May 15, 2008, from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock at the Brunswick Zone. Is sponsoring this event at Brunswick Zone, 647 Pawtucket Boulevard, Lowell, Massachusetts. Team captains will be responsible for developing and overseeing their team and making sure everyone shows up at the Brunswick Zone by 12:30 p.m. on May 15th, the day of the event. Each team should have a team captain and 4 other bowlers. Bowlers or their designated representatives will use a Bowl for Mental Health sponsor sheet, which you got, my dear Mayor, sponsor sheet, to list the names of their sponsors, sponsors' addresses, phone numbers, and pledge amounts. Completed sheets and collected money will be submitted the day of the event. This is our 5th bowl-a-thon in 6 years, but the 5th annual mental health is in celebration of National Mental Health Month every May. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Money raised at this event will benefit Renaissance Club, a program serving adults with mental illnesses who reside in Greater Lowell. If you want to become part of a team or join an existing team, please call me, Bob Ethier, at 978-454-7944, Mondays through Fridays at daytime, or 978-467-5209/978-458-3704. Those 2 numbers are for evenings or weekends. If you wish to organize a team or join an existing team. Our clubhouse director is Elaine Walker.
Thank you very much, Robert. I know that you take your duties very seriously at the Renaissance Club. I know you're trying to raise money and you are the organizer. I know it's in May, but you want to be a little bit early, but I want to thank you for coming forward this evening.
I'm hoping to see the Kingpins again for another year at the bowl-a-thon.
All righty.
Last year we raised around $5,000. Most of our benefits go to a conference we go to every 2 years. I've been to 3 of them. I went to Minneapolis in 2003, Minnesota, Helsinki, Finland in 2005, and in Milwaukee, Wisconsin this past year. We're trying to raise a lot of funds for this club, and I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here this evening. Hopefully we can get a few of my colleagues to bowl as well as our city manager. That'd be great. Thank you. Motion to accept the minutes of the April 1st meeting by Councilor Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Mercier. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Getting into the city manager's portion of the agenda, a communication from the city manager, responses of council motions and requests. Any discussion? Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Mr. Manager, there's a notice on our desks this evening about a FEMA remapping of certain sections of the city, and about a meeting to take place at the East End Club explaining changes to FEMA mapping. And I had some brief exposure to this issue when I was mayor during the flood, and I think FEMA personifies, I guess, the cliche, I'm from the government, I'm here to help, because they're not here to help, and they're very frustrating dealing with FEMA. And I think their response to the flood was to remap the city and put, a bigger chunk of Centerville in a flood zone, making people, require people to purchase flood insurance who really aren't at very much risk. Do you have any update? Is that what this is about? Or have we successfully negotiated our way back from what was originally proposed? Or what can you tell us about this?
Mr. Manager.
Councilor, I think you've described it quite well. This wasn't specific to the city of Lowell with regards to the flooding that took place here, so much as it was part of the ongoing remapping that takes place by FEMA on a regular basis. And they've identified, I do think though that the flood had some, as they were going through their normal flood flood mapping process, they did take into consideration the flooding that occurred. We have been negotiating with them or trying to get them to understand certain aspects of this. I think we were able to get some areas that they had included out, but when push came to shove, this is the areas that they have determined that are flood prone. And that, as you can see, there's been 150 properties that are possibly affected. So this public information meeting will be held. And all of the people whose properties are potentially affected have been notified by Mr. McCarthy.
right, thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
And is there any way that, homeowners that may be included in this flood zone have any, rights of appeal, or if they don't feel that, they're in a flood zone? Because I know when they were holding these meetings, some folks were a little upset that they weren't in the flood zone in the past, and perhaps as a result of the latest flood, they were now in the flood zone. Do they have any ability to?
There is some ability to appeal, but it has to be based on technical data. So there has to be an engineering
That has to
process
be
that goes through
gathered
that.
by the homeowner or the individual property owner? I mean, for instance, if I say, look, I wasn't in the floodplain before, and of course this is all about insurance and insurance driven, that if you're now put into this zone, then you have to acquire additional insurance. Are these 150 homes, is this in addition to, or this in total?
These are the additional properties.
So there is an impact to those
Right.
people that once were not in the flood zone. And
Absolutely. There are definitely more homes now that are affected by this. Mr. Sheehan can talk about some of the process. He's familiar with having done this in a number of other communities.
Okay.
In order to appeal or challenge the new flood map, you have to essentially do a re-engineering or a restudy on your own of the watershed, which is almost impossible for any property owner to do individually. You'd have to do that on a collective basis, because you'd have to look at the whole contributing area. If you lived along Clay Pit Brook, for instance, you'd have to look at everything upstream of you that contributes to that area in order to challenge the study. So it's a very daunting task.
So how did FEMA make that determination? I suppose I'm just thinking from the homeowner's perspective. Did they come in and do this lengthy study that determines, look, you're now in the floodplain? If I have to do this study, what?
They typically do. They do a study. They do an engineering study. Like many things, you can get diverging opinions on the accuracy of their study methods, but it is based on a scientific study that they undertake, and probably has been going on for several years, and we don't necessarily hear about it until the product is approaching finality.
Okay. Is there going to be an advertisement? Well, like you say, all the property owners have been notified by mail? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you. On this issue, my comment has to do with being a lender, looking at this type of issue and the impact that it would have on a property owner that may, in fact, have a mortgage on the property. And if it ends up, falling now into a flood zone where it didn't before, and they choose not to participate, the lender would then do a forced place, if you will, of insurance and end up back charging the homeowner in any event. So again, clearly there would be an issue if the properties in question do have mortgages on the properties. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Kazanjian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To the manager, the incident happened in the library over the weekend. I just want to, I'm sure you're aware of it. Is that correct?
I am aware of it.
And I'm not here to say I told you so, but I mean, what can we do I know we get some things in progress, but
Well, one thing we have done, Councilor, is that we've, we engaged to have a security guard on duty during the Monday through Thursday nights. We've now enlarged that to include weekends. I am happy to say that the surveillance cameras that we have there at the library have proven very helpful to the police department. They have suspects already in mind that they're tracking down right now for this incident. Those are the that's really what we've done. I believe this is, I want to say, I didn't, I like to deal, as I'm sure all of us do, we like to deal in actual, facts regarding these situations. And I believe this is this has been over the last 5 or 6 years. This is, I believe, it's only one of just a handful of thefts that have taken place at the scene, at the library. 13 larcenies, but that includes many of those are bikes. I believe over half of those were bikes that were stolen from outside the library over that period of time. But there's no doubt about it, as I was quoted in the newspaper today, regarding this incident, that there are problems over there. There are problems throughout the city that we're trying to deal with. And in that particular case, it's a public facility that we want to maintain, the open, the feeling that people have that they can go there and utilize that, and that they're not, it's not closed off. At the same time, we have to make sure that people feel that they're safe when they go there. And over the last number of years, we've taken a number of steps to improve that sense of safety. And I think if you look at the historical number of incidents that have happened there, there's been a decrease over time. But occasionally, we do have situations like this weekend where we have a theft. We have acts of vandalism that occasionally happen there. And we're continuing to seek improvements to the way we're dealing with that. The cameras are one part of it. As I indicated at the last meeting, we are improving that surveillance, the surveillance cameras. I had an opportunity to have a brief conversation with another city councilor this week that apparently at some point in time there was talk about putting surveillance cameras throughout the entire building, and that wasn't followed through on. We're looking to revisit that and increase the number of surveillance cameras, but also putting those monitors throughout the library, not just at one location, so that the staff can see them regularly. We've put the security guard in, we've put the panic buttons in, we've done the walkthroughs with the police. That was something that wasn't being done prior to I believe the last year. So we are taking steps, and we're continuing. If people have other ideas, we're certainly open to those. And but we're going to continue to push forward to make that building very safe. I don't consider your question here tonight a situation if I told you so, because I'm certainly aware that there are security issues there, as there are security issues at a number of our public facilities. I think we've had incidents at the senior center from time to time. I wouldn't tell seniors not to go there. I would say, we're going to continue to follow up and make sure that it's a safe environment for everyone. Certainly we have problems at our schools, and we've put the resource officers out there, we've put cameras in the schools, we've taken a number of steps. And every public facility that we have in the city, we're going to continue to make sure that it's as safe as possible, and any improvements that people can make or recommend to us, we're going to follow up on and do that.
Okay, thank you. A victim had called my house last night and explained to me what happened.
Yep.
And the laptop was stolen, iPod was stolen, and when he was chasing the individual that stole the iPod, he shattered his ankle. He'd be here tonight, but he's having surgery as we speak. Right. On his ankle, and I just feel we have to do something here. And talking to the director at our last week at our subcommittee meeting, and also the trustee that spoke, they're stating there's no problems there. That's the stuff that bothers me.
Council, I don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I, like I said, I'm not here to give you a hard time about it. I just feel that they think, or they're telling us there's really no problems there.
Yeah. If I may,
Mr.
Council,
Manager.
with all due respect, and I know that your intentions are highest on this, as I think all of ours are, and I can assure you that the director and the trustees, I've talked to them about this. They do not believe that there are no problems there.
I'm not saying all the trustees. There was only one that really spoke here. That's that trustee, and also the director was talking. And the employees that spoke, and she's denying the things that the employees are saying. And now we have, and 4 or 5 days later, we have a situation where an individual had a few things stolen, and he also hurt his ankle and broke his ankle, shattered his ankle. He's going to have it reconstructed and worked on.
I think that they know that there are problems. I think they want to keep a balanced perspective. They certainly don't want to give the sense that the people are taking, putting their safety at risk to go to the library.
And I don't want to do that either, but we have to take care of the problem. At least tell us there's a problem, and so we can address it. And we have to work together and try to get straightened out.
Absolutely, and I can tell you that the director has come to me as she has over the years that she's worked here with recommendations regarding. I believe it was the director who came forward with the idea of the surveillance cameras, and and the policies that we've put in place, and the notification processes. So I can assure you that's not the case, but
Do we have anybody on Saturday in the library, like as security guard? Or?
I think I just mentioned we're starting this Saturday. There will be a security guard there all day long, and there will be continue to be.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the city manager, and this is a very difficult issue. I think we have to try and strike a balance here. It's a public building. There's got to be public safety. Obviously, is an issue, and it's got to be of the highest importance. But I think we also have to balance it with the use and the intended use of the library, so that it doesn't intimidate and scare children away, and the people that would go there for the intended use. You know, what happened Saturday obviously is a terrible incident, and I think, and I would actually, I don't think I haven't heard from Chief LaValle on this whole issue yet, but I don't know as if how you prevent these kind of strikes. Certainly they wouldn't do it in front of a police officer, but it happens on the streets, and I think we had a couple of other serious, maybe 4 other serious issues throughout the city over the weekend, some shootings and whatnot. And so I think we have to keep it in perspective. It's very important, and I think that hopefully these changes make a difference. Hopefully this isn't an isolated incident, and this gentleman deserves to be taken care of, and hopefully has a speedy recovery. But I think that we also have to realize, as this issue has come up, the public safety issue, that we have a resource issue with the number of police officers, and as we just talked about, a very, very tight upcoming budget, in that in trying to place more police officers and police presence over in the Hamilton Canal area for the problems we have over there, and the impact it may have on the upcoming $500 million build-out. That we were told that to do that is going to require pulling them from somewhere else. So I would be interested in hearing from Chief LaValle at some point, maybe if, I don't know if you've had an opportunity, Mr. Manager, to put together a comparison, or some other, from other municipalities or towns and cities or whatnot, of what else, what are their incidents at their library, and how are they handling it? Maybe we can learn something. Maybe maybe it is atrocious what's happening here, and that we really do have to deal with it more severely. But I think one of the difficulties that we are faced with, the practical difficulty, is just the resources. If we pull a police officer off of a beat somewhere to sit in the library, then we may have one less police officer in Lower Centerville, where we have some serious issues. So, I haven't heard anything directly from Chief LaValle, and maybe, I know we have I believe there's an upcoming public safety subcommittee to deal with this in 60 days or so. If maybe he could participate in that to give us an idea of, basically, dissect these crimes a little bit, maybe, and say, look at it, a snatch and grab, what do you do for that? Presence, cameras, I mean, what type of thing, what are we looking at here? What's the best way to deal with it? So that we're not just kind of throwing money at the problem, or our own ideas, and we're relying on the chief. But, I mean, obviously that's a ridiculous incident to have happen in a library, and this poor guy now is going to be faced with some severe recovery issues. So wish him a speedy recovery. But I think we need to try and maybe get the chief to weigh in on this in terms of what we can do for the types of incidents that have happened, in the recency issue and so on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Counselor, I agree with your description of the situation, and certainly Superintendent LaValle has been consulted on a number of issues regarding this. We think we can't afford to put a police officer over there, but that's why we went the route of putting the security guard at night and now on Saturdays. And as I say, they've been very helpful to us with the walkthrough officers. The walkthrough officer actually was very helpful in when looking at the surveillance camera footage to actually help identify the suspects that they're now pursuing. And so clearly we utilize their expertise. We are pulling together information regarding other incidents in other libraries to see how we match up, and to try to steal ideas where we can from other communities. I will tell you that it is a common problem that these snatch and grabs of iPods are very big right now. It's a common problem throughout many of the cities across the country. GPS units out of cars, it's a huge problem. Anything that people can steal quickly is out there as a target, and you know, we're grappling with that all the time here in the city, and certainly the library isn't exempt from that. You know, even our college campuses this is a routine problem that we have, and you know, we're going to continue to push forward on it, and I think you know, we're going to do the best we can. You know, it's difficult. Again, we're trying to walk that line. We want to do everything we can to prevent anything like this from happening. Nobody wants this to happen. Nobody assumes that there's nothing we can do about it. We continue to search for ways to solve the problem. At the same time, we don't want to create an environment in which people can't utilize the library, either because they don't feel safe or because they, you know, feel that it's essentially a police state there. They want to be able to use it freely and peacefully, and we don't want to scare people off from a handful of incidents that have happened over time. So it is a difficult balance, but I can assure the entire City Council and the public that everything we can do, we are going to do, and the rector is fully committed to that, the trustees are fully committed to that, and I know the City Council is concerned about it and fully committed to it as well.
Thank you. Councilor Lenzi?
Yes. There was no security guard on Saturday, though. Right.
It still seems that we should have a person in the library and who's probably walking from table to table and seeing who the genuine learners are and what their purpose is of being at the library. If a kid is there to steal an iPod or planning to, you know, do something he shouldn't do, that person would pick up on that. Okay, what are you studying? What are you researching? And you know, there's people there to help them, but there's no disciplinarian when they spot a person. I'm not sure that the librarians have had training in that manner, where you know, they're out looking for kids who aren't there for the right reason. And to me, a disciplinarian, a position in the library where someone's roaming from table to table, forming a relationship with the kids that are there, that they see all the time, knowing kids that they don't see all the time. You know, it seems to me that it would be able to cut some of these things off, possibly.
Well, again, Council, as I said last week, I think that's a great point that you raise, and that's exactly what the position that we have. But I think there are two different issues we have here. That position, I think, has been very helpful. Sure, incidents have continued to happen with kids, because you know, I don't think we'd ever say that the fact that there's still crimes would say that means the police are ineffective. Police do the best job they can to reduce crimes. Likewise, the behavioral specialist has made a bond with a number of the youth of the community and has had very good success in, you know, getting them to be more responsible and act more responsibly. This particular case, any case like this, whether it's a snatch and grab or some type of larceny, that isn't a disturbance type of call, or you know, a vandalism type of call in which someone's just misbehaving, that we need to crack down on. This is a crime, or you know, that's a clear intent to commit a crime. And the particular individual who stole the iPod really wasn't a youth. He's estimated to be in his early to mid-20s. So this isn't one that you'd have your behavioral specialist would be focused on. This would be something that, you know, is just a run-of-the-mill adult looking like they're just using the library effectively, and then suddenly sees an iPod sitting there, grabs it, and runs. And you know, in this case, it appeared that there was someone else, a little bit younger, who may or may not have been with him, that saw the opportunity then to take the laptop, and so the victim ended up losing both the laptop and the iPod. So again, a very unfortunate situation. I don't know off the top of my head what the answer to that is, because it happens so many places, and no one has really come up with an absolute solution yet. But we do know that the presence of the surveillance cameras will be crucial to us in solving this crime, and that we think that putting the security guard on will aid in that in the future. And that will be this Saturday, there will be a security guard there, as well as moving forward with your suggestion to refill that position of the behavioral specialist to deal with the other part of the equation, the grant monies that provide us, that will give us that opportunity.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is an unfortunate event that took place Saturday. But I think we have taken steps to reassure the public and the Board of Trustees and employees at the library that we're taking this serious, and we're going to continue to monitor it. I believe we scheduled a subcommittee meeting for 60 days out to look at progress, to look at issues, to look at what worked and what didn't work. But I can't sit here and fault you, Mr. Manager, and point the finger and then say, I told you so. I think we're losing focus. I think we're getting off subject here. I mean, there is a problem over there. I think we've identified it, but I think we need to look at the big picture as well, because Saturday night, there were 4 shootings in the city. This past week, a gun was taken at Lowell High School, and while that is just as important as other things, there are still some major issues that we need to focus on, and not just the library, and not get off focus on what's taken place. We just had the chief in, less than a month ago to report on statistics and those areas that they're working on and the hot spots in the city. So this is one of the hot spots. But, I'm not going to point the finger at you and say, and I think it's time to say I told you so when we had 4 shootings last night, this past Saturday. We're coming into the summer season, and if history will, I hope, not repeat itself, the kids are going to be outdoors, and there's going to be some problems. And I believe there were some gang problems. There were problems at the Grip House, again, that we just dealt with. So I think we're going to have to continue to roll up our sleeves and look for other answers. I don't know. I look to the maker of the prior motion. What else can we do other than, to start screening people? In the subcommittee, we focused on what, the employees wanted, 3 to 6. That was sort of the time they felt threatened. Those are the time. And we've had security. We didn't, I don't think anyone thought that there was, a need for Saturday morning. So, let's just keep looking, keep working, listening to other suggestions. I think we all know that there's a problem there. It's just the way to do it and how to let people know it's still user-friendly, and it's still, at the same time, send a message that we're not going to accept, no one's going to be allowed to go in there if they're not going to use the library for its purpose.
Thank you. Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is unfortunate that we had that incident on Saturday. I still believe that the library is a safe and secure, again, public building, clearly in an urban setting. I guess one recommendation that I would like to make, Mr. Manager, that if you could explore working with Dora St. Martin, is that a lot of our success over the past years have been building partnerships with others in the community. And we may want to reach out to United Teen Equality Center, Greg Croto and his group, and see if they may have some ideas to come to the library and actually maybe have a meeting with either the trustees or a subcommittee of the trustees and see if they could offer some assistance as it relates to this problem. Again, I'm not saying that it deals specifically with the kids, if you will. As you mentioned earlier, they were the person that may have been involved in this incident was probably in their early 20s. But again, UTEC does deal with a wide range of ages from the standpoint of mid-teens to young adults. So I would recommend that you reach out to UTEC and see if they'd be willing to at least offer some assistance.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Councilor, I think that's an excellent idea, and one we hadn't, I don't think anyone's really thought about that one. I think that's a good idea. We'll do that. I do know that when I was at the inauguration on last week of Chancellor Meehan, that I had a discussion with one of the staff members at the university, and they offered the possibility that at least during the school year, some of the university students could come down and help provide some mentoring service that could work in well with some of the same ideas that Councilor Lindsay suggested. So we're working on that as well.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kazanjian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, like Councilor Lindsay said, I don't want to beat this, and I think we do have some progress being made. There's no question about it. And I mentioned that Councilor Elliott said that I just feel that when I talk to them, the twice on the subcommittee, 2 subcommittees that we had, that the director and also this trustee feels there's no problems. They maybe don't want to come out publicly and tell us there's a problem, but they have to work with us if we want to resolve what's happening there. And that's basically what I'm getting at. And if they did say, hey, we have a problem, we want to work with you, what can you guys do to help us out? I mean, that's what we're looking for, because there is a problem, and we all know that. So that's basically what we're looking for, and that's all. And I know there's problems throughout the whole city, we know that. This is a public library, we realize that, but we have to make it safe for the people that want to use it. And I think we are working in the right direction, I really do. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, if you don't mind if I could make 3 little points up here. No objection, thank you. I received a knock on the door on Saturday, and a couple came to my door with a concern about the library and asked me if I would copy this letter and give it to my colleagues. You have it before you. It'll be referred to the city manager just so that he could take a look at that. And I know that the manager is coming back in 60 days with a report. And while you do this report, Mr. Manager, if you could find out for me the 2 buzzers that are on each desk, where does that, when you press that buzzer, where does that go? Does that go to the police department, or does it go to some other place like on Walker Street? Because I'm understanding that that buzzer does not ring in the police department. It goes to an outlet somewhere else, and then in turn goes to the police department. I don't know that. I'm hearing that. If you could please put that in your report as well. I just want to know that. And lastly, about that public information meeting regarding the flood maps, and I don't know if Councilor Martin said this because I was talking to the city clerk, but there is going to be a meeting at the Easton Club, 15 West 4th Street, hosted by the City of Lowell and FEMA, and representatives and city officials will be available to ask questions and answer questions. And it'll be April 14th at 7 o'clock. That's on a Monday, so that's next Monday for those of you at home that are interested to go there. I think this is very important. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, motion to accept the communication. Councilor Milanazzo.
Just 2 quick items, if I could. They're both related. On the Chapter 90 letter in the packet, I believe we're anticipated to receive $1,400,000 in FY09. Is that up or down over FY08? Do we know?
I believe it's in line with what we received in prior fiscal years. They've stayed pretty constant with the Chapter 90. It might be up a little bit, but...
Okay. And related to that, you provided us with a list of streets that were going to be reconstructed. Again, Nesmith Street, do you know the status of what's going on? Nesmith Street between East Merrimack Street. Again, not all the way to Andover Street, probably to either Clifton Row or Oak Street, if we could.
My understanding is Nesmith Street is not going to be repaved this year. We will be doing the striping, but it will not be
repaved. Okay.
Thank you. Any further discussion, Mr. Manager?
Just one point. I was going to do it at the end of the meeting, but I'll do it now, just to alert the council and the public that I did receive a call late today from both National Grid and Enel that they've been having some problems. National Grid's been having some problems at a couple of their substations, and particularly one over in Tewksbury that they had to replace some circuits, and as a result of that, that had an impact upon the Perry Street substation that they need to, essentially what's happened is that the system that they utilize, I believe I printed that out here so I could use the specific language that they use, but essentially there's some critical work that's needed there because the electric system in Lowell is currently operating in a condition where a single contingency on the system, i.e. a loss of a line or a generating unit, would cause the loss of capacity here in the city of Lowell. That would mean an electrical outage of almost half the city. It would also cause the loss of the ability for the Boot Mill or the Boot Hydro plant to operate. So it's their opinion that they need to go in there and replace some equipment at the Perry Street substation. They had intended to go in there last Friday and do this. The problem is that if they do this, it's going to require the shutdown because the Boot Hydro plant feeds into that particular substation. If they do this work, it's going to require shutting down that facility for approximately 2 hours. That of course means that there'll be no water going through that. They'll try to divert more water through the canal system, but that isn't going to solve all of the problems. So there is likely going to be an increase in the elevation of the river of somewhere in the vicinity of 10 to 12 inches over the entire amount of time of this work, which includes an hour shutdown before, the 2 hours of work, and then the gearing up afterwards. So they wanted to alert us to that situation, particularly Enel, and I followed up with some correspondence or some communication with National Grid. The alternative that they have raised, particularly National Grid, is that if this isn't done, as their letter indicates, that if there was an electrical outage because of the single contingency failing, then that could be somewhere in the vicinity of half a day to a day of outage throughout the city, which would of course cause an even more difficult situation here in the city, and particularly with the river. I had about 5:30, 6 o'clock tonight, I had a discussion with the National Grid representative who's in charge of this area or aspects of this area, and he's going to be in touch with me first thing in the morning to ensure that this is going to be a short outage. I've told him that if this is going to be a long-term outage, if there's any risk, then we do not want this to proceed. He asked when the better time to do this would be, and obviously I said early summer. But the concern is there's risk involved in waiting too long. So we're continuing to assess this and trying to work with both National Grid and Enel, but I at least wanted to bring this to the attention of the City Council that this is ongoing, and this is something that may be happening very early tomorrow morning. The flow that they monitor right now, where it would bring us up to, if this happened, it would bring us back up to the level of the river that the river was back at late Friday afternoon. Which, as you recall, we were having some rain last week. Doing it early in the morning is the preferable time because there's less flow coming down the river from the snow melt up north. So that's when the river is actually at its lowest. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention. We're continuing to monitor it. I expect to be speaking with the National Grid representative about 7 o'clock tomorrow morning to ensure that this work can be done quickly, solved, and get water back out of that river. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Mr. Manager, when you talk to this gentleman tomorrow, couldn't they open the gates before they shut down?
I did talk to them about that, Councilor. There isn't any way that they can open. There aren't actual gates that they can open at this point in time. Those, it all comes back to these flashboards. At least the first board is off of all the flashboards at this point in time. Flashboards are tilting, they tell me. They did open one of the fish ladders. That has now become clogged because of the debris. We talked about releasing the other gates of the other two fish ladders. Those are much smaller. The impact is minimal, and it also would have a detrimental impact on the agreement that they have with the Fish and Wildlife, because those have to be open for the fish to come back upstream later in the next month or so. So those are the options that they have. I did talk to them about trying to get more water out through the plant, and even running water through the plant without the turbines operating. They've conveyed, and National Grid has verified that that's not an option that they have right now. So what they're going to try to do is put more water through the northern canal and take it out that way to act as an alternative to keep that water level as low as possible.
Thank you. Councilor Kazanjian?
The manager asked my question, was about the fish ladder, opening the
Okay.
gates for that. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Elliott?
Thank you. Mr. Manager, we got an email this week from a gentleman that sort of took a picture of the hydro plant. There are actually two spillways. One is I think, after the hydro plant, and then another one is, before that. Is that an option? And I know that's part of their permitting process, so it was very clear to say, look, even if we wanted to, we couldn't, because that's what the permit allows, and there's some environmental conditions that may be affected from that. But, like you said, those boards, I know you said the first board, that's 1 foot, because I go by there every day, and I look at it, and for the life of me, I know the engineer that was here at that 3-hour subcommittee meeting said, I think they're down. Well, I don't think they're down, and maybe they're bent, but it seems if what he described at the meeting was that at a certain elevation, i.e. 94.2, those boards are designed to, to fall over and essentially break or give way, if you will. That does not seem to happen, but it seems like you're exhausting all of the avenues. I don't think anyone can, even if we wanted to, I don't think anyone could go out. I know there was discussion about a crane or something, but,
Right.
for future purposes, it doesn't seem like those, that rebar or those steel rods are working as they are designed to.
I spoke to them about that, the spillway down by the hydro plant, and it's that area where the water is, I saw that picture as well, where the water is gushing out, that has to be shut down because of the turbines. Without those working, the water can't come through there, is my understanding. And we'll follow up again with that first thing in the morning to see what the options exist for that. Again, it comes back to the flashboards, and the necessity of putting those inflatable systems in, I think, is the real answer for us here. And we really have to push Enel to get that done. And that's, I think that solves so many of our problems.
Well, I don't disagree, and I know that Enel are saying that, look, we're going to put them up, but we won't drop it below 92.2. But in case of emergency, at least we would have the opportunity to do something that we don't have now.
And that would have been the case tomorrow. They could have kept the water, they could have lowered the water
Right.
more and then brought it back up to
Okay.
the level they need, or whatever the case may be. I will say that Mr. Sheehan and I were looking at the river levels today, and they're all, posted online on a regular basis. They have a monitoring station, and if it goes up about that 8 to 10 inches, it's still below the action level stage. The good news is, we haven't had any rain for the last couple of days, and we aren't projected to have any rain for the next couple as well. I think it's the weekend that we're looking at probably having some rain on Saturday.
Again,
So this will be raised up during the period and then lowered back down as soon as they can open that back up.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Motion to accept all the communications and place them on file by Councilor Kazanjian, seconded by Councilor Lenzi. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Getting into the public hearings, it's a little past 7, but that's okay. We will open up the public hearing. Their first order of business is an order of taking and acceptance of Independence Drive, Freedom Way, and Patriot Way to take by eminent domain and fee a certain parcel of land in the city of Lowell for the municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Independence Drive, Freedom Way, and Patriot Way, and other municipal purposes associated therewith. Opening up the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in favor, in favor, in favor. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? That portion of the public hearing is now closed. I will open up the public hearing to anyone wishing to speak in opposition. 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 Having heard no opposition, the public hearing is closed. What is the wish of the body? Move approval by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Roll call.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield? Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Next is a public hearing on an ordinance. I will open up the public hearing on this ordinance, amending the Code of Ordinance, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 13 thereof entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. I will open up the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is now closed. I will open up the public hearing to anyone wishing to speak in opposition, in opposition, in opposition. What is the wish of the body?
Move approval.
Move approval by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Mercia. Roll call.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield? Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Getting back into the city manager's portion of the agenda is a communication from the city manager requesting approval out-of-state travel. This is actually the city manager that would go to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania for a governor's conference on tourism. And for the record, all expenses related to this event will be reimbursed by the conference sponsors, therefore incurring no cost to the city. What is the wish of the body? Motion to approve by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Martin. Roll call.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield? Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Question, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Councilor
Does this
Mercia.
now require the manager to name an acting manager in his absence? I thought that under Plan E, that needs to happen.
I will, as we get closer to that, I will.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Council.
Next on the agenda is a Council on Aging resignation. This is a resignation by Eileen Golden. Dear City Manager Lynch, regretfully, I am submitting my resignation as a Council on Aging board member effective immediately. I would like to thank you and the previous city manager for giving me the opportunity to serve the seniors in the city of Lowell. Motion to accept the communication and place on file by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Next is a communication on the Council on Aging, an appointment, and it's a request for confirmation. Dear Mayor Caulfield and members of the City Council, pursuant to the Code of the City of Lowell, Section 2-76, it is with pleasure that I am appointing the following persons to membership on the Lowell Council on Aging: Eleanor Belanger, 41 Trull Lane East, Lowell, Mass., to fill the unexpired term of Eileen Golden, who resigned her seat, which term expires March 7, 2009, on such time thereafter until a successor is appointed and qualified. And secondly, Sidney Liang, 23 Phillips Street, Lowell, Mass., to fill an unexpired term, which expires April 12, 2011, or such time thereafter. Confirmation by the City Council is required. Motion to accept the communication by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Kazanjian. Roll call.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield? Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Next is a communication from the city manager regarding a Council on Aging reappointment. Thereto, dear Mayor Caulfield and members of the City Council, pursuant to the Code of the City of Lowell, Section 2-76, it is with pleasure that I am reappointing the following persons to membership on the Lowell Council on Aging: Michael Hayden, 25 Hadley Street in Lowell, which term expires April 12, 2011, or such time thereafter until a successor is appointed and qualified; and Sue Ellen O'Neill, 305 Pine Street in Lowell, which term expires April 12, 2011, or such time thereafter until a successor is appointed. The confirmation by the City Council is requested. Motion to accept the appointment by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Lenzi. Roll call.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield. Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Next is a notice of appointment to the Board of Health. Dear Mayor Caulfield and members of the City Council, pursuant to the authority vested in me as City Manager under Mass General Law, Section 111, 26 as amended by Chapter 60 of the Acts of 1997, as further acceptance by Section 312 of Chapter 159 of the Acts of 2000. I have appointed the following person to the Board of Health: Paulette Renault Karajanis, 84 Beach Street in Lowell, to fill the unexpired term of Michael Lenzi, if anybody might know him, which term expires February 2nd, 2009, or such time thereafter until a successor is appointed and qualified. Confirmation by the City Council is required. Motion to accept this appointment by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Roll call.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield. Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Next is a vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept a gift from Nayeli McCaskey for $200 towards Lowell Police training administered by the City of Lowell Police Department. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Kazanjian, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Second reading by title, if no objection, is a vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept a gift from Nayeli McCaskey of $200 towards Lowell Police training administered by the City of Lowell Police Department. What is the wish of the body? Motion to accept this gift by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Lenzi. Roll call.
Councilor Martin.
Oh, pardon me.
I just want to know, what was this for? So you, Madam Mayor? I know it was a gift, but
For training in the police department? What type of training, Mr. Manager?
I really appreciate the $200. It just more-
Teaching an old dog new tricks, is that what this is?
No, that would be referred to the city council, maybe.
We'll take the money, don't get me wrong, I was just curious.
It is
exactly
the
what it was for.
K-9 department, K-9 unit.
K-9 unit. That's it. They recognize the hard work and dedication of the Lowell Police Department's K-9 unit.
Okay,
So it's just a general.
just a donation, thank
Right.
you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield. Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Next is a vote authorizing the city manager to execute a license agreement between the City of Lowell and Sangria, Inc., doing business as Sangria Bar and Grill, for use of a portion of the city property adjacent to the premises at 179 Central Street for the purpose of sidewalk seating. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. Second reading by title, if no objection, is a vote authorizing the city manager to execute license agreement between the City of Lowell and Sangria, Inc., DBA, doing business as Sangria's Bar and Grill, for use of a portion of city property adjacent to the premises at 179 Central Street, Lowell, for the purpose of sidewalk seating. What is the wish of the body?
Move
Approval
approval.
by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Kazanjian. Roll call.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield. Councilor Elliott.
Yes,
Councilor Kazanjian.
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Next is a loan order for capital improvement bonds to borrow $4,660,539 for the purpose of financing various capital improvements and any related architectural and engineering services in connection therewith, any costs indicating incidental and related thereto. This will be referred to, this is the first reading, it'll be referred to a public hearing on April 29th. But before I do that, I just wanted to tell you what we're going to be referring to a public hearing, because I think it's important for the people at home. These are capital improvements, and we do have information as to what they are. If I can only find it, we'll be all right. For,
Yeah.
oh, all right. Thank you. Of course, this did go to a finance. Did you want to suspend the rules and bring in a, or did you want to recess this and do it when we have a public hearing? Did you want to speak with a report of progress on your
Sure.
subcommittee?
You want to bring the Finance Subcommittee report in?
Okay, I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules so that Councilor Elliott can bring in the Finance Subcommittee report, which is in regards to what we'll be referring this to a public hearing. Motion to suspend the rules by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Finance Subcommittee met this evening. You have to bear with me. I have to find my notes now.
And while you're getting that prepared, there will be no recommendation, but we will be referring this to a public hearing on April 29th. Motion to refer to a public hearing on April 29th by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Kazanjian. Councilor Elliott?
We're ready, Madam Mayor. The Finance Subcommittee met this evening to discuss 3 items that have been referred to it over the past couple of weeks. The status of the FY08 budget, the discussion on the upcoming FY09 budget, as well as the capital improvement plan that had been presented by the city manager about approximately a month ago. The manager did go through the FY08, or Mr. Moses did as well. And to give us an update, we'll be receiving a quarterly report for the quarter that ended April 1st. There are no, from initial analysis, there are no problems with FY08 with the exception of the snow and ice deficit, which is 1.8 million this year. In light of all of the snowfall that we have. Last year, the deficit, and typically there is a deficit because this is an area that the state allows us to deficit spend and then raise a little bit later. But last year, in comparison, the deficit was $700,000, which we didn't put on the tax rate. We used excess revenues and unexpended expenditures, also known as free cash, to close this deficit. This year, manager doesn't think, in light of the tight fiscal times, that it's uncertain whether we can cover this whole deficit out of excess revenues and unexpended expenditures. FY09, the manager presented a highlight of the budget, going through the revenues of the additional revenues, additional $900,000 in additional net school aid. General aid change would be a reduction of almost $200,000. General fund local receipts approximately $650,000. Now these are projected figures, by the way, and the conservative projections. Again, the snow and ice deficit of 1.8. Last week we mentioned a loss of wastewater fund reimbursement of 1.1 million. An additional, also a loss of MSBA, Mass School Building Assistance, revenue of $952,000. New growth, we had some discussion on new growth. Last year was 2.2 million. Of course, this is a good thing that we all look for because it helps offset the tax rate. This year we're looking at an $850,000 reduction as a result of the payment in lieu of taxes that has not been finalized yet. And if that's the case, it'll just be considered general tax revenue. Is that correct, Mr. Moses or Mr. Manager? And I think Council Martin asked a question whether that's being negotiated or discussed, that payment in lieu of taxes.
Yeah, that's not really a loss. It's something that was converted in fiscal 08 from payment in lieu of taxes to taxes, okay. and that was part of new growth.
If I said loss, I guess a reduction to the new growth area, which is we always look to offset the additional expenditures that we have. Proposition 2.5 increase, nothing, no increase over the 2.5 at this point. In the appropriations, the general fund health insurance, while we saw, shall I say savings, I guess it is a savings as a result of contract negotiations, collective bargaining agreements that allow employees to go through a PPO option. There was a savings of $125,000, which is really a very positive sign. The flip side is that there's a $1.9 million increase in healthcare costs. I did fail to ask this question, Mr. Manager, in the finance subcommittee meeting, and I meant to, but will this cover? Typically, there's a structural deficit in a health insurance trust fund. Well, I shouldn't say a structural deficit, but we've been getting close to that. And annually, the auditor comes in with a finding that you're getting dangerously close to, hitting that minimum number in a health insurance trust fund. Does this bring us above that number, or is it just covering those added increases?
No, this actually, it goes towards helping us maintain the appropriate level. You may recall last year we went up 15% on the health insurance premiums. That followed 3 years at which the increase was lower than recommended by our Blue Cross and by the insurance consultant. In those years, it was only 2 and 2.5%, and that was about 7 to 8% below what was being proposed or recommended. So last year was a step towards getting it back up to the appropriate levels. This is something that's become even more serious of late, but the Department of Revenue has issued regulations requiring certain levels of funding there based upon what they consider to be an appropriate amount to have on hand. The reason for that is that a number of communities across the Commonwealth have done just what was being done here in the city of trying to keep that artificially low in order to free up resources for operating budgets, and communities have found themselves suddenly in a jam where they don't have enough money to meet their bills, and they've had to go back to the state and to seek authorization to borrow that money or seek state bailout, and obviously that has a very detrimental impact upon the bond rating and the financial stability of those communities, and it can be it can cause really wreak havoc on the city's finances if that's done. So last year, as I said, we went up 15. This year, I believe we're looking at 10.5 to 12, although we're looking to see if we can keep that, even bring that in a little bit lower while still maintaining the appropriate level to have in that trust fund reserve.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. A couple other increases, areas of increase. The school debt service will reduce by 200. Unfortunately, there's additional debt that's going to go on to the tune of 275,000. So a net increase of 75,000. Trash removal is an area of concern. We're looking at an increase of 425,000. And I think we need to look at the recycling end and the cost that is incurring the city and the benefit that we're getting. Can you speak to that, Mr. Manager?
I would like to speak to that. We had a meeting today, actually, with Mr. McCarthy and Gunther Wellenstein, as well as the solid waste inspector that just was brought on. Mr. Moses, Mr. Sheen were there as well. And I think we'll be coming forward. Mr. McCarthy's putting together a report for me on some recommended changes that he sees that would be helpful in starting to reduce the costs of our solid waste. We've also identified in the solid waste contract some language that we think we might be able to exercise to reduce those costs further. But there are a couple of different issues. One is that the gap between the amount that is paid out in solid waste costs minus the fee that we charge, the difference between those two numbers has grown dramatically over the last several years. In other words, the fee that the city has charged has not kept up at the same pace as the cost of the service. So that's one of the reasons why we're seeing an increased strain on the municipal budget, because that has happened. So Mr. McCarthy's doing some work on that. The other is that we continue to be plagued by the problem that the city of Lowell just isn't recycling at the rate that it should be recycling. I think it's recycling at about 9 or 10%. Most communities are up in the 25 to 30% range, and of course we always look to Worcester, which is recycling at a 50% clip. And so we're looking to find ways to use some carrots and some sticks to get people to recycle more. And we're actually investigating, and I know, Councilor, you're familiar with this program that you and I have talked about this, and you sat in on a meeting on this a couple of years ago, or about a year ago now, I guess it was, with the Recycle Bank, a new service that we're looking to perhaps pilot here in a portion of the city that would would incentivize recycling, so that people, based upon the amount of recycling that they do, would reap some economic benefits that would go directly to them in the form of gift certificates and coupons. That it's been successful in other communities, so we want to try it here. But it's a large it conceivably is a large capital cost to the city with no definite benefits. So we want to try it on a cost-free basis in one section, and Recycle Bank is willing to do that with us. So I see us doing something with that as well to try to hold these costs down. The other alternative, and I say this just throwing it out there as a possibility, well, possibility may be a bit strong. We spend about $750,000 a year on our recycling program. We divert the equivalent of $250,000 from the burn facility where we send our trash. So in other words, we spend $750,000 to get $250,000 in savings, which means that we may, down the road, if we can't get that recycling numbers up, in most communities, they recycle enough to offset the cost of the recycling program and save money. We have a long way to go to get to that point. If we don't do that, we may have to, as a city, start to look at whether, in fact, recycling makes sense for the city. And it's a shame, because it is a means of saving money. If it's not being done, then we're spending money unnecessarily. And that's I never thought I'd be in a position where I'd say that, a community should perhaps eliminate a recycling program. And I know it would be very unpopular in certain quarters, but it doesn't make financial sense for us at the current levels.
So recycling is costing the city about $500,000.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I think that's something that we really need to take a look at, and maybe someone will file a motion. We'll send it to the environmental subcommittee, because I think we have to explore that. But that is one of the big. Trash removal is an additional cost of $425,000, as you reported in the subcommittee. The other big area is the utility accounts. We're projecting an additional $150,000 just on the increase from last year. So, and the last item is Greater Lowell Technical High School. We're looking at $131,600 increase. So maybe Councilor Lindsay can help us work on that figure a little bit. But looking at the revenues and the expenses for this year, just rough numbers, and we have a long way to go. We're looking at a $3.5 million deficit gap that we need to close. So that's FY09, and so we've got some work to do. Lastly, we did discuss the capital plan that was referred to the Finance Subcommittee. And there's approximately $250 to $300 million in capital improvement costs that need to be done. There's a loan order that is before us tonight in the amount of $4.6 million for roofs, 2 roofs, the roof for the Riley School, the Bartlett School. Those are the major priorities that we've heard from the school committee, as well as the HVAC system at the Riley School, as well as there's a need to improve the HVAC at the high school. Light truck, there's another piece for light trucks and heavy trucks and fire equipment. The manager's going to get us a complete list when that loan order does come in. So that's a report of progress from the Finance Subcommittee. We recessed knowing that there'll be other issues, or we continued it actually knowing that other issues will come up. So I don't know if members from the subcommittee, Councilor Broderick and Councilor Martin, would like to chime in, as well as all the members of the council were in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real briefly, that was a pretty good recap of everything that went on. It's a bit of detail, and we'll get more later. But I had a question. Myself and I think Councilman Alonzo filed a joint motion relative to a pay-as-you-throw, or we're dealing with the trash, I think before we look at stopping the recycling, which is really not a responsible thing to do, that could we maybe get a look at what Worcester and some of the other towns that have a higher number of recycling, which really just is going to be an incentive for people to recycle. It's not another, it's not going to be another thing for people to pay, but you're going to be allotted so many bags and so on, and the more you recycle, the more you save, and this is a huge burden on everybody, all the taxpayers. I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. I think it's worth looking at, because before we just say we can't afford to recycle, I would like to at least look at that to see why are these other cities, why is Worcester so much more successful to the tune of 5 times what we are. It doesn't make sense. Gunther, I think, has done his best to educate the public and has been in here, and you see his picture in the newspaper occasionally, and he keeps people well informed. It seems like there's no incentive to do it, and people are just struggling to change their ways, and it's a huge burden, and I think it's going to get worse. It's going to cost more and more to dispose of this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Lenzi.
What is the percentage, thank you, for, that we would need to get to offset that $500,000 deficit? If Worcester's running 50%, are they making money? Are they?
They're in fact making money.
Okay.
We'd have to probably increase. We'd have to double our recycling, I would say. It's about $58,000 for each percentage. So to get it up over that, to a point that we're making, we're breaking even thereabouts, we'd have to get up to about 20% recycling, which is certainly it should be achievable. And one of the, as I said, we're going to have a report out from Mr. McCarthy's pulling together, working with Gunther, and that we talked about today with some different ideas, and certainly includes issues like pay-as-you-throw, but also some general or simple ordinance changes as to what people can put out at the curb, what they can't. Some fees, perhaps on some bulk items and some white goods, and that's being done in coordination with other communities around us, so that there's there's some consistency, and there aren't incentives for communities to bring things to other places. But that's what we'd be looking at, probably.
Mm-hmm. And what if some program went out with the tax bills, for instance, that said, help us lower your taxes, and we had a information sheet regarding how recycle affects, this deficit and this tax burden?
We do a mailing about the recycling program. I think that's something. I actually had a meeting a couple weeks ago with a number of the neighborhood organizations, and we were talking about some different, trying to tie it in publicly, with the idea being that giving people the sort of the sense and the knowledge that if we have to spend this $500,000, that's $500,000 more that, one, we have to either tax or cut services because of that, or not be able to grow services, whatever the case may be. So we talked about doing that, and I think we're going to try to send out the mailing. I think that's a great idea. We'll try to send it with more of a direct correlation, not just please recycle, but let's make it known exactly what the benefits are. The other that came to my attention today in the meeting was that the way we send those out is we send it out to, actually I think we use the tax, the property owner address. And unfortunately that doesn't hit all of the residents. And we have a number of residents that don't see it and don't, so we're going to do a mailing just to residents of the city. Hopefully that will be able to get that word out more. We're also working with the Landlord Association and getting some information through them out to their tenants to let them know their responsibilities, and really do education, but also that stick approach that if they don't recycle, they're violating the city ordinance, they're violating state law. They're not supposed to be disposing of recyclables. So.
And what about as part of a curriculum in the school where the kids are becoming more and more aware of what green means, and but to get their parents involved, something that they'd sign or whatever it would take. But it seems like a very achievable goal, like you said.
Right. Again, an excellent idea and something we've talked about having Gunther do, and I think that the new solid waste person we have on has some experience in that area, and I think we can try to follow up on that. And I had some discussions with the superintendent recently about that, about some ideas to get out and do that. That has proven very successful in other communities, and I don't think it's really been done here to the degree that it should be.
Thank you. Councilor Kazanjian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Manager, what is Worcester doing to achieve that 50%? Where we, so we're at 9%? Pretty much the same cities, though Worcester's larger, but what are they doing to get 50%?
If I had to guess, and it would be a very educated guess to do it, I would say that it is the pay-as-you-throw program. They were one of the first communities to actually do a bag and tag program that in order to throw away any trash in the city of Lowell, you have to pay, city of Worcester, you have to pay for it.
Okay.
So
okay.
the more you, and that's the incentive, the more you throw away, the more it's going to cost you. And if you don't throw away anything, you're all set. It doesn't cost you anything. So.
All right, well, we have a set fee to get rid of trash. So they have that set fee, or do they can pay less?
I can't remember the exact way that the city of Worcester does it. I know that I had some experience doing a similar program, actually the second community in the state to do it. And the way it was structured in that community was that it was a flat fee that basically paid for the trucks to go around, and then a per item cost depending upon how much you put out. I'm not sure whether Worcester is structured like that or if it's straight every bag costs X amount of dollars, and as I say, if you don't put anything out, you don't pay anything. I can't recall exactly how Worcester does that, but I do know it's very much incentivized that if you don't put anything out, or the less you put out, the less it costs you.
Okay. And I know you said it cost the city $500,000 for recyclables. Has it been less last year, more last year? Is it getting any better? Is it getting any worse? Or?
It's interesting. The numbers are very odd because our total tonnage of solid waste has gone down over the last couple of years. But the recyclables, the tonnage of recyclables has not gone up. We're seeing more people coming in getting recycling bins. We can't keep them. They're flying out the door. But again, we're not seeing any increase in the amount of recyclables that we collect. So it's a strange situation that we're trying to get a better handle on.
Okay. Also, getting back to the trash, multifamilies, do we service 3, 4, 5 family units?
I believe we go up to 5.
5? Maybe we can downsize that to save some money, whether it's a 2 or 3 where...
there may be some legal issues there, but I think that's something worth looking at.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Councilor Lenzi.
And who keeps track of those statistics of how much is actually being recycled?
Gunther Wellenstein, the solid waste coordinator. Okay. He gets reports from Russell on the amount of recyclables, and he gets reports from Wheelabrator, where we bring our trash over in North Andover. They give us a tonnage sheet each week on how much tons we dispose of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No further discussion. Motion to accept the Finance Subcommittee report as a report of progress by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Kazanjian. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. And just to recap, that was a public hearing for these capital improvements on April 29th. Next is a vote authorizing the city manager to apply, accept, and expend funds from a grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Public Health for the sum of $22,085. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Second reading is a vote authorizing the city manager to apply, accept, and expend funds from a grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Public Health to be administered by the City of Lowell Health Department. Roll call.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield? Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Next is a resolution expressing support to hold the first day of issuing the Betty Davis stamp in Lowell, Massachusetts, the official birthplace of the actress, whereas the United States Post Office is scheduled to issue a Betty Davis commemoration stamp in September 2008, and whereas the first day of issuing this stamp is currently scheduled to take place in Boston, Massachusetts, whereas Lowell, Massachusetts, the official birthplace of Betty Davis, would be the most appropriate site to hold the first day of issuing. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Lowell, or the City Council by the City of Lowell as follows, that the city manager and his administration work with Congresswoman Nikki Songas's office as well as the United States Post Office to change the venue of this event from Boston to Lowell, Massachusetts for the September 2008 issuing of the Betty Davis stamp. This resolution adopted by a vote of the City Council of Lowell on this particular day of April 2000, well, we say the 8th day of April 2008, submitted by the City Council of Lowell, second reading by title. If no objection, is a resolution expressing support to hold the first day of issuing the Betty Davis stamp in Lowell, Massachusetts, the official birthplace of the city of the actress. Roll call.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Caulfield? Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
8 Betty Davis ayes and 1 absent.
Next is a vote accepting Chapter 203 of Acts of 2007, which authorizes the city to pay a certain court judgment. Whereas the General Court enacted Chapter 203, Acts of 2007, which became effective on November 29, 2007. This is in regards to a sum not to exceed $201,463 to satisfy in full a judgment in civil action entitled Foy versus Boutselis. Motion to
Motion
to waive the full reading by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milonazo, second reading by title. If no objection, is a vote accepting Chapter 203 of the Acts of 2007, which authorizes the City of Lowell to pay a certain court judgment. Motion to, did you want to talk?
No, I want to say.
Okay, Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, through you to the city manager. The manner of payment that's listed in here, has that been negotiated out with Mr. Boutselis' attorneys, and they're all in agreement?
Yes, it has.
Because I see a large payment not due till 2010. So, but that's been agreed?
That's correct.
The other question, I guess, would be to the city solicitor. It says here that pursuant to Council Rule 28, we should hold a public hearing at least 1 week prior to this vote. I think we've waived that in the past when we wanted to get this thing going, not this particular thing. And if we didn't want to go to a public hearing, we could waive.
We can waive Rule 28 and vote for it now. It's up to this council.
Okay, I would move that we waive Rule 28 and get this matter out of the hands of the city solicitor and off our agenda.
That would have been my next question, but you're one step ahead of me, Councilor Mercia. Motion to waive the full, motion to suspend the rules and initiate Rule 28 by Councilor Mercia. Therefore, we'll be taking a vote.
Yep.
Seconded by Councilor Elliott. Roll call.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield? Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazandrian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
8 ayes, 1 absent.
Move approval of the vote.
Move approval to suspend the rules by Councilor Mercia.
No.
We had
No,
to
no.
suspend the rules to do that to begin with. We had to suspend the rules to bring in Rule 28, which I didn't suspend the rules.
Yeah, we just voted on it.
Oh, all right. Well, then we,
We need a vote now for the,
roll call.
Before we do that, I just, if I could,
Oh, you want to speak on it,
I
Councilor
just
Milonazo?
I'm planning to support the vote, but I just want to acknowledge publicly the work of the state delegation on getting this Chapter 203 through the legislature.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Broderick?
Thank you. Actually, I was going to, I'll echo those sentiments. And this has been ongoing for years and years and years. Another issue is we just resolved the bus issue. And I want to congratulate the manager and the solicitor for settling this. I see it a lower amount than what was actually ordered by the court. So again, congratulations, good job, and I intend to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield? Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Manager.
Mayor, City Councilors, just thank you very much for the vote approving this. I do think it's been something that's been out there for a long time, and one that we were anxious to settle. This has been a priority that we've had of trying to work this out, and I want to thank the Law Department for their work in achieving this. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been trying to hammer out this $125,000 number that I think is in the payment plan that we've worked out along with that. The only aspect of this that isn't yet complete that we're finalizing is the payment for Officer Butzelis himself, that for the money he's already paid towards this particular situation. So we're working out that, and we'll be back in with another vote on that in the very near future, so that he's made whole as well, and we'll put this behind us.
Thank you. Next is a resolution expressing support for members of Congress to fully fund the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Kazanjian. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. This is a resolution expressing support for members of Congress to fully fund the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program. Roll call.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Mayor Caulfield? Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Yes.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. Are there any further subcommittee reports? No subcommittee reports. Next, petitions. Two miscellaneous petition by Omera Soto, 30 Brook Street, request a handicap parking sign. Motion to refer to the traffic engineer by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Next, 3 items from Timothy Tyson, 97 Saratoga Street, request the city accept the sewer line. If there's no objection, we take all 3 together. Motion to take all 3 together.
I don't object to taking them together, but I have a question on this one.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Martin.
Mr. Manager, could we get a report back on this? I know I'm familiar with this part of the city, and grew up nearby. There are some private sewer lines on some of these side streets off Gorham Street, and I think it is in the best interest that the city have ownership and control of those lines. And so I'd just like to see what the city's response to this petition is.
Okay. We will report that back out to the council.
And if I could, on the petition about Perkins Street, I think that they talk about Perkins Street and Hale Street, but I think they mean Hall Street. So we just note that.
It is Hall Street, not Vale.
Gee, and you didn't even grow up in that section. I did. So there are 3 issues here. Timothy Tyson to accept the sewer line. Go Latino Market, 596 Central Street, request overhang awning. But let me just say, a motion to take all 3 together by Councilor Kazanjian, seconded by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. And then the 3rd is Attorney James Flood Jr. for Perkins to encroach, and was it Hall Street?
Hall Street.
Hall Street, encroach on the sidewalk. Motion to refer all 3 to the Law Department for the proper vote by Councilor Lenzi, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. There is 1 claim for property damage referred to the Law Department by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Getting into the motions this evening, the first motion by Councilor Kazanjian, request appoint a committee to review the Hamilton Canal development plans, etc. Let's see, that's seconded by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Kazanjian.
Okay, thank you. It was, I think when Trinity was here, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about, I mentioned this to get some type of committee with architects or engineers to oversee what Trinity is actually doing for our Hamilton Canal District and work with them. And since I've done that, I've got emails from two separate architects that I don't even know. One lives downtown and is an architect, and the other person does work downtown. So I just feel that we're getting free help and work with Trinity and see what is involved, and who knows better than they do what's happening downtown. Some live there and some work there, so that's basically what it is.
Thank you. Before we get any further, there is a person registered to speak. Mark Goldman, for the record, just give your address, Mark.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Manager, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. And I'm here to speak against this motion. The Hamilton Canal District development was thought of 2 years ago in the spring during the former city manager John Cox's administration. The request for proposals went out in the spring of that year. There was only 7 replies to that RFP. 7 companies came in with answers to the request for proposals. At the time, a new city manager was elected by the city council. After that, 5 semifinalists were chosen to be semifinalists, I should say, by the review committee that had been established. Trinity was the chosen one by the city manager. We have had 3 vision sessions, charrettes. That was part of the request for proposals that they were asked to do. They have done that. They are scheduled to do 2 more, possibly 3. They are submitting, I believe, a MIPA report to MIPA sometime this month, and there's going to be another session, vision session, near the end of this month. Now, everyone, citizens, residents of Lowell, have been invited to attend these vision sessions, whether they be planners, whether it be architects, whether it be neighborhood activists. The Jackson Appleton Middlesex Business and Residential Association began meeting around 2007, maybe the latter part of 2006. They have been involved in this process. There have been hundreds of people involved in this process. This proposal that we saw about last month was based on the recommendations of the people, the business community, the residents, from those vision sessions. The city has an obligation to see what Trinity comes up with. The proposals look fantastic, and I think it'd be the greatest thing to happen in the downtown, in the expanded downtown area. This proposal will end up having to go before the planning board, the Conservation Commission, the Historic Board, for various reasons. Special permit, site review, the planning board, because of the waterways, the Conservation Commission, because of the historic nature of the buildings, the Historic Board, and probably even the ZBA if they need any variances. Then they have to come to the City Council. There's going to be plenty of review process. I think this is just reinventing the wheel that's not necessary. And I request, if possible, that the City Council take a roll call vote on this motion. It's that important. A vote for this motion in my opinion, is a backward step. A vote against this motion is a positive step to move forward in the Hamilton Canal District. And I urge that sincerely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you. Ditto. Mr. Goldman presented a pretty good history there. That saves me from trying to put it together. I think the motion is well intended, and I think that we, as the council body, can't have enough looks at this to make sure that we're doing the best we can to have the best project come forward that we can. My concerns are as much that we don't want to delay this as they are on the legal side. That we did send this out to RFP, negotiated and got a letter of intent, I believe, and with 5 public charrettes, and that was a process that was set and signed, and 60% of the way after 3, to change the rules, I think we could have we maybe have some potential liability on the city side. Trinity has been an exemplary partner in this, and everybody's been welcome. I would encourage Councilor Kazanjian to forward those names and or to get them involved and come to subcommittee meetings as we get through this process and to stay on this. My understanding is the architectural firm that's doing the work for Trinity took part in the design of the historic park and is very, very aware of the historic nature of the city and the downtown. And I'm confident that they're going to do a very good job. However, that's the whole purpose of the public process, and they've had, I think, over 100 people at each of the 3 public charrettes. My understanding is that we're going to approve a more or less a footprint, not so much a brick and mortar vote in terms of how it's designed and the final architecture. And I would maybe through the manager to the solicitor, I don't know as if we necessarily have jurisdiction, or has this been lined out specially, because this would go before the historic board. I thought we were going to do more of a permitting process and maybe expedite the permitting process, but that this would come down to the actual historic board. From my days in sitting on the historic board, to go over design review and things like materials and color schemes and things like that. So I think we have to be careful in that respect that we may not have jurisdiction for this. I think that also we don't want to lose sight of the fact that the good faith with Trinity here and the fact that they're out trying to finance a $500 million project, public money, private money, their own money, I'm sure. I know they've met with in the delegation, particularly Senator Pangiatakis has got on board and is working to get the money. And I know that they're also working with the governor's office, and money is tight at the state level. And my concern would be that we now change the rules to add an unknown, if you will. And I'm not saying this is going to slow it down or present roadblocks, but where do we draw the line? Does this review board have veto power, or are they just going to make recommendations? My sense is that when Trinity's in downtown Boston fighting for money, public money, and in whatever they can, credits and whatever they're doing, that it's going to be easier, and it would be easier if it's a done deal, and the deal is the deal. We change it now more than halfway through, and I think we're going to have some problems, and they could have some problems, and it could not only slow the process down, but reverse it, by creating stumbling blocks for them in terms of being able to finish up the project. Essentially, the fact that we're close to being finished, or we've gone through, I believe it's more than 2 years. I think it's long before I got on that the whole concept of this plan and acquiring the land and back under Manager Cox bringing this forward, and we're close now. And I think the idea of asking everybody to get involved and review it and participate is critical, and I think it's working. I think the motion itself to have people come in and review it, I think is a good idea. I would oppose creating a committee that would have any type of authority, especially any veto. And again, I would, if it's going to go forward for a vote, I would ask maybe for an opinion from the solicitor if we can in fact do it, because I believe we are under some type of contract with Trinity, and it could present a problem for us. But those are my thoughts, and I'm not sure what the wish of the body is.
Councilor Kazanjian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I thought when they gave us a presentation here 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, there was an architect firm from Chicago, and I had mentioned that night that we got a architect firm from Chicago. Why don't we get some local architects and engineers here that know the city better than the people in Chicago do? And What I want to do is form a subcommittee, economic subcommittee, and these people can report to the subcommittee and tell us, yeah, this looks good, or this looks bad, and as a council body, we can vote either yes or no on this project. We have one of the biggest projects in the city of Lowell, $500 to $800 million. I've probably seen maybe 4 or 5 hours of this. I've been to a couple of charrettes. I've seen the presentation here. I went to Cobblestone. So how much time do I really have to vote on a $500 million project? I don't. And I'd feel a lot more comfortable if I had architects and engineers, professional people that are going to work for the city for nothing, and report to a subcommittee board that we have, economic subcommittee board, and tell us either the positive, the pros and cons of what's happening here. And now we can make a decision what's going to go on. That's what I'm trying to do. And it's, like I said, it's not going to cost the city 10 cents. We got a major project here, $500 to $800 million project. Myself would feel a lot more comfortable if I had some professional local people here to either live downtown or work downtown, telling us what the pros and cons are in the Hamilton Canal District. And maybe there's none. It might be perfect. But I would feel a lot more comfortable if I had a report from them stating, okay, yeah, everything's good, or we have some problems here. And that's it. Thank you.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I'm not going to support the motion. I think it's really another layer of review that's not needed. As the other speakers have indicated, we've been at this now for some time. We've gone through a number of charrettes. I think changing the process now in midstream is really not fair to Trinity. I'm not sure that we would have any legal liability with Trinity. They, by the way, have just been named a developer in Boston to undertaking a large BRA development. And again, I don't want them to start paying more attention to what's going on in Boston if they think that we're not unified here in Lowell. And I think, as Councilor Broderick indicated, a lot of public money is going to be needed to carry this project out. And if we don't show that we're unified, and if we don't support our professional development staff in the Planning and Development Office as well as the Historic Board, and not to make light of the fact that the Chicago architectural firm is world-renowned and has been involved in doing projects here in Lowell in the past, I just think that even though, again, I don't think there's any ill will intended on behalf of the maker of the motion, I just think the unprecedented public process that we've gone through puts aside any fears that I have that we're not going to get the best project for the city of Lowell, one that we as a council, as well as the Planning and Development Office, as well as the Historic Board can all, and National Park Service can all be very proud of. And I just think that by forming a committee to review the plans, again, we have an Economic Development Subcommittee, which, as we all know, Councilor Kazanjian, myself, Councilor Lenzi, and I believe Councilor Martin are on, and the city manager knows that we're available to meet and review these plans going forward. And again, I wouldn't want to necessarily, and I think I said this last week or 2 weeks ago, if there are any local architects that may be interested in a piece of this project going forward, I wouldn't want to necessarily rule their ability to work with Trinity out of the equation at some point in the future. So again, I'm going to actually vote. I think it's a good idea to take a roll call vote. I'm going to vote against the motion because I think that we have had a very good open public process and one that will continue as we proceed down this road. Thank you.
Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would, I don't want to be repetitive, but I just think, could you read the motion first of all?
Yes, I have it right here. City Council support appointing a committee of local professionals to review the Hamilton Canal development plans.
Okay. So, I mean, if this committee is going to review, I guess that there are two possible outcomes. One is they have the power to veto things and say, we don't like that plan, which I think is a bad idea.
No, that's not what...
Is this just like another set of eyes? I don't think
everyone else got to speak. I don't get to speak.
I'm sorry, but I just thought...
So that's one possibility. The other one is that it's just an advisory board, which I guess is the intent. But if it's an advisory board only, then I really don't see the need. I think this developer went through a competitive process, followed the rules laid out by this council. This council set out the RFP process, what was going to be expected of the developer. This developer has embraced that process. They've welcomed it. They've had these public meetings. I've been to every single one. There've been, I think, 3 so far, over 100 people in attendance at each one, and I don't really see the need for another advisory group to report back here. If there are architects in this city who want to weigh in on these plans, they've had opportunity, and they still do, I think this sends the wrong message to the development team of the biggest project that this city is ever going to undertake. This is going to be the biggest project Lowell has ever undertaken. It is a cost factor times 10 of what the Songus Arena was. And at this early stage, to start sending mixed signals to the developer, that we don't like your architect, we have to have our own people overseeing. When that architect, has worked with the national park in the past and is very proud of its achievements on what it's done, is just a mistake. It's a big mistake, I think, for this council to now switch the rules in mid-year, and I just don't think it's a good idea at all, and I don't support it.
Councilor Kazanjian?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And like I mentioned earlier, the board would have no authority to veto. They would report to the subcommittee, and we would have the authority to when we vote on this matter. But it seems like everybody's worried about Trinity. How about the taxpayers in the city? That's our main concern. Trinity's going to make millions of dollars on this project, and there's not going to be any delay. All we want is we have volunteers that want to work for the city, for the taxpayers, for nothing. That's what I'm getting at. And it seems like everybody's worried about Trinity, or what's going to happen with Trinity. Well, what's going to happen to taxpayers if there's a problem there? That's what I want to know, and that's what we're here for, the taxpayers in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick?
Thank you. I think there's another component of protecting the taxpayers is to make sure that we don't open ourselves up for liability and throw a monkey wrench into a project that then may have some real problems and not be brought to its fruition. And I think that to have them as an advisory group or whatever, that's fine. They can come. There's still meetings to go. They're entitled to come to all the meetings. They can come to subcommittee meetings and speak. They can be recognized. If they're not going to have any specific veto power, which again I don't know if we can even delegate that from the council, then invite them. They can come. They can speak. And I would like to hear what they have to say, what their input is. And that's the whole point of the public charrette, the public process that's gone on. Trinity has gone above and beyond what we've seen before in the city in terms of public access and listening. We had the presentation. They've incorporated a number of things that have been brought up in the charrette, and they might even put boats in, as Madam Chair referred to in one of the drawings. But I don't think it's fair to categorize it that we're worried about Trinity. I think that there's a number of things here that we're worried about. A process that's been set, rules have been set and should be followed. There may be legal implications to it, and there may be, as important, there may be detrimental impacts to the project itself and even moving forward if investors see a sign from the city that it's not the same deal. Things may change, and they're out looking for a lot of money on this. And if things aren't ironed out and followed, that I could see them running into problems trying to line this up. I'm sure the governor's office is getting bombarded with requests for funds and help and priorities, and I'm sure our delegation has worked hard to move this to the top. If the city now starts changing the rules, I think we're going to send a signal, first off, to our delegation, Senator Pangiatakis, who has worked hard with these developers, and Congressman Songus, and to the governor that we're not too sure. We're not too sure if these guys are the ones, and that we want to have our own people review it in-house. Again, if it's just going to be a review, they're entitled to come to all these meetings and review it. So I don't see what the
well, it takes time, Madam Mayor. I don't want to interrupt, but these are professional people that look at a set of plans, look at some renderings, or look at the buildings. They'll pick up a lot of things that we won't even see. I mean, that's what I'm trying to get at. We get professional architects and engineers that will, like I said, pick up on things. And I mean, they're talking about the legal matter. We haven't even voted on this yet, have we? This has to come to a council vote to make this okay with Trinity. Is that correct?
No, Mr. Manager?
Repeat the question, Scott.
Does this have to go to the council for a vote? Maybe the solicitor can answer that question.
Ultimately, it has to go for the land disposition agreement.
Okay, and that would give them the okay to do the work, is that correct?
That will be the final step
Right.
in this process. And there's a couple of other steps too, is the adoption of the form-based zoning that will come with this. And as I think I indicated, and I don't want to reiterate or echo what everyone else has already said, but there has been a process that's been utilized, and there's a number of concerns out there, one of which being certainly the liability and the fact that this firm was selected in large part because of the architectural firm that, frankly, I know them more from their Boston address than and their Lowell work than from anything they've done out in Chicago, although they've done work worldwide. But one of the concerns is that there has been a public charrette process, which was something that the city was very adamant about when we went through this process, and Trinity, as well as the other developers, knew this public participation process was going to happen. And it's been very interesting here in the city is there have been about 100 to 150 people that have been coming to these meetings that really feel engaged. And in fact, there have been 6 architects that have participated in these charrette meetings. And they've been engaged because they believe that for once, or certainly a somewhat unique opportunity, they're participating in the development of a plan of how this is all going to take place. And now, to say that there's going to be a special subcommittee, it basically tells these people that their participation, they're going out and spending 3, 4, 5 hours at these meetings, really wasn't as necessary because there's a group of local experts. But Councilor, I agree with you that we have a lot of talent in this community with a number of architectural firms that I think, if I may, I throw out a sort of a compromise, if you will. We're just getting, right now, the plan that's been presented is really just conceptual ideas. And there's nothing that, an architect really isn't, looking at these plans is not going to be able to tell anything. Very little from what they've seen. It's really an urban design type of thing. But as we get into the form-based zoning, which is the next charrette meeting, I think that we should reach out to these architectural firms in the city and say, we're going into form-based zoning. We realize your importance in the city. We'd like you to come, and we'd like to give you a place of prominence at those meetings, along with the public, and participate in, and even ask them. Come to us afterwards and say, what do you think? That gives them it brings them into the process, yet at the same time keeps the public, which has been so engaged in this process, at the forefront, and sort of achieves the best of all worlds. And I think that, I know that, and as a developer, yourself, Councilor, I know that you realize the greatest hazard of any development is uncertainty. And and not worrying about Trinity, I'm worried about what this says as we really highlighted the fact that you get into this deal with us, we were going to work in partnership, and we were going to take away a lot of the uncertainty so that you can move forward with this project and make it happen, because it's a high-risk project. And to now add a potential level of uncertainty sends a message that I think we need to be very careful about. But I do think that you're right, that we've got some talented people here who know the city, who have participated in development projects, and let's get them in. If they haven't been to the charrettes, let's get them to the charrettes.
Well, again, first of all, I don't think the 150 people going to the charrettes wasted their time. I just feel if we get a committee with like I said, professional individuals to look over this and give us the pros and cons, report it to a subcommittee, I think that, to me, it just works, and it sounds like it's common sense to me. I don't know, but it doesn't look like I have the vote, so I'm just wasting.
But I'd like to offer an amendment to your motion in the form of a compromise, similar to what the city manager said, that these professional people that probably aren't aware of the time, and the manager, through this motion, could invite those people that that are so professional. And I don't see a problem with another set of eyes, not to dictate or overshadow and say it's my way, but just to offer an input. And I think that's where your motion is going. I would like to offer this as a...
I think I'll settle for the compromise. I really don't have any choice, so I think that's what we'll have to go with.
Well, I think this would be probably a more lawful, legal thing to do it in a dignified way. So do I have a second on this motion for a compromise amendment to
Second.
the, seconded by Councilor
I have a
Mercy?
question. It sounds to me that this is a substitute motion because an amendment doesn't fit in the
Well, a
original
substitute motion.
So I would offer it if I were you as a substitute motion.
Okay.
Where the original maker of the motion is in agreement with it, and I would second the substitute motion.
Sure. Would you mind, Councilor Kazanjian, that we substitute this
That's,
motion
that's fine.
for a compromise?
Okay.
Because I have no problem with another set of eyes helping us out, and there are professionals.
Oh, absolutely.
And there are professionals that attend these kiosks and things, and the seminars and things, and add their input. But if you know more, then that would be to
Okay.
get in touch with the manager to offer their names so we could personally invite
Yes.
them
Okay.
up. I think that's a good thing. That's a
Thank
good
you.
thing. All those in favor of the motion, substitute motion, signify by
I
saying
speak?
aye. Oh,
Can I
sorry.
speak?
Councilor Elliott? Or who's
I was
next?
just going to ask.
Councilor Broderick, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to ask if you could read that back, or if,
The substitute
Yeah,
motion
please.
would be to offer a compromise motion to ask the city manager to get together with Councilor Kazanjian to personally invite those professional people that he's referring to that probably would want to serve on that committee, but we're not going to have a committee, but to invite them to the meetings that will be, I know it's a long, drawn-out thing, but the next meetings that are taking place, the manager could personally invite them to attend.
To weigh in on the zoning, right? I think that's what,
The form-based zoning.
right.
Right. Okay?
okay.
Councilor Lenzi?
Yeah, and I think they should be invited if they're willing to, if we can enlist their services, knowledge, that they should be invited probably to the Economic Development Subcommittee meetings also.
Sure.
Where,
That'd be
there'd some-
good. Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Having sat here when former city manager, Councilor Cox, brought this in, knowing that there was going to be a cost to the city on purchasing this land when Pellon Company, or I forget the follow-up company that was going out of business, it came to the council, and I thought it was a good argument that was recommended by our planning and development staff, which, there's one layer of professionals that we have in the community. And, they came in with the proposal that let's go through this master plan. Let's bring in professionals. Let's not do this piecemeal so it ends up, some hodgepodge of zoning and we're not putting together a good plan, a good process. We're not thinking ahead. It's going to be a large development. Let's have it coincide with the jam plan. And so we went ahead and purchased the land. I think it was a good thing in retrospect, and a little concerned of the time frame that it's taken, because it's been a couple of years. It's probably been more than a couple of years, and all the while, the city is paying for it. And I voted for that, knowing that we were going to put this plan together. We're going to buy that land, and sell it sort of as a wholesale plan, and put together, an ironclad planning process, which we have. We went out, everything has been transparent. We set criteria in the request for proposals that we're not, we want experienced developers, whether they're, from Lowell or from anywhere else in the country. We want you to come in, tell us your qualifications, tell us what your plans are. Then we went through, we narrowed the list, and we picked a very good developer. Are there others out there? Maybe there are. But I think it's been very public, very open. I understand Councilor Kazanjian's concerns. They may not know all the nuances of traffic patterns, or, where's the traffic coming, or, what's going to work down there, the schools, et cetera. But the charrette process is the place for the local architect. I don't know a local architect. Councilor Kazanjian does. Have them come to the charrette. So that's a good compromise. But I just don't want to see this delayed any longer than it has. And I shouldn't say delayed. I don't know if it's been delayed, but it's been a long process. And we need to get some development going down there. We have a potential judicial center that's going down there, and there is some housing starts. So to get another set of eyes, I don't think that's a bad thing. It's always good to have another set of eyes, but to put something else, I don't know how we would go about picking this board. I mean, Who knows, that there may be some good architects and some not. Where is the board going to be made up? So I think it's just going to make it more cumbersome and provide some delay, whether it's intentional or not. I'm not saying. It's just going to make the process longer. So I'll vote for the substitute because it is in the spirit of cooperation. And, we're going to need many more votes as this project goes along. And it is very important when we're looking at added tax rolls. I can remember during the campaign, just a short time ago, Hamilton Canal, jam plan. We need to get more commercial industry. We need more tax revenue, a larger tax base. So we got to come together on this because we're going to need votes on zoning or many other things that'll come before this board. So, in the spirit of compromise, let's vote for it. Bring anyone else on that we can that'll help in assisting this project and move it forward in maybe a more timely fashion. Maybe these people will see some things that the developers or the master planners have not, and speed the process along. So, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you. Could I just ask through the city manager to the solicitor, the substitute motion, the way it's structured, there's no authority given to this review committee or the people that we're going to ask to come in and review. But my concern again is the legal aspect of adding another layer. I think it sends a bad message, but I'm concerned that if we're going to be picking and choosing who's going to be invited or allowed to come, are we now creating another issue in terms of I don't know what, favoritism or something that down the road could be a problem for us?
Mr. Manager.
Counsel, before I turn that over to the solicitor, let me explain my understanding of the substitute motion. That is simply that we're going to, we have a list of the registered architects here in the city of Lowell. We certainly are aware of the architects that do business here in the city of Lowell that may live outside the city, but have done work here. We'll just invite those people, tell them we're going into the form-based zoning, and we'd like them to participate. We'd like to offer up the opportunity based upon their expertise to have them play a role in that process, and ask them to do that. And that way, there's no selection. Now, maybe if Councilor Kazanjian has a different idea on how.
No, that's fine. What we can do is find out what we have for local architects, send them a flyer or something that we have certain dates where either it was the economic subcommittee or the charrette. So either one of the two should work.
That's wonderful.
And whatever information I have, I'll forward it to you.
Great, thank you.
Sure. That's right.
Okay, thank you. I'm comfortable with that as long as we're doing a mass mailing, if you will, that offers the same opportunity to everybody. That's and I know that's what the intent is. I just want to make it clear that if that's what make it clear that that's what we're voting on, that we will contact everybody within a certain radius to offer the same opportunity to come in. That's all. Thank you.
I'm not saying the people that are in place right now are not professionals. They certainly are. But the more eyes might see something and have input, and that's all I'm concerned about. Thank you. Next is a motion by me requesting...
Are we gonna vote on the substitute?
I made the motion, Councilor Mercia seconded it. All those in favor, I don't believe we need a roll call.
No, but you need a vote.
We
All
don't
those in favor, we didn't vote.
Okay, but we don't need to vote roll call. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next is a city council request, the city manager and to have the law department prepare a vote for a 60-day trial for a 15-minute parking at 598 Central Street, seconded by Councilor Mercia. This is, Mr. Manager, if there's no problem, if I could just say this right here, I'm bringing this motion. Okay, thank you. Well, I meant, Mr. Manager, I brought this motion up before, and when I did, it got confused to 604 Central Street, which already has a sign there. So the sign still isn't there, and I called the law department, and they had never received 598. They only received 604. So I'm bringing it in again. So now that they have this in their hands to the law department, the motion speaks for itself, but it's 598 Central Street, a 15-minute parking, and it's a 60-day trial. So if we could just clear that up and send this off to the law department, who, they don't have this from the time that I made it before. Thank you. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. All those
Can I speak on the
opposed?
motion?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I know you're very familiar with this area. I am as well. I got a call from one of the business owners in that area. I think he talked to other members of the council, too. I think it's related to the next motion. And these are, I think, a very good idea to create these 15-minute parking spaces for businesses in that area. But not all the businesses are honoring the 15 minutes, and some are spending all day there. So I think I'm going to support both of these motions. I think they're fine, but I do think we have an enforcement issue there. I did get a note back from the manager's office that they were dealing with this and that the police were on top of it, but I just want to emphasize the need for enforcement once these things go into effect. I think it's really not an ordinance issue. I think it's an enforcement issue, and we're going to need to keep on top of that.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was basically what I was going to also mention. And I think when this originally came up, I don't know if it was myself or someone else made the suggestion that we take this up at the neighborhood subcommittee. As far as enforcement, we've had similar issues with no parking signs, and whether it's a code or an ordinance issue, what the enforcement would be. But it certainly is a problem back there, back central. And I know people are parking their cars across the street in front of someone else's 15-minute parking sign to leave theirs open, and it's not right. So I think that if maybe we get a report from the manager, but I think it might be something that we, if it's necessary, to look at the ordinance to see if there's something that needs to be done to put some teeth in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
Yeah, I agree. I got contacted by folks as well, and it seems unfortunate that we put something in place that is supposed to, be helpful, but there's always folks that are violating it. So, maybe if things don't improve, we'll have to take a look at it to see how we can make it work.
Thank you. Councilor Kazanjian?
Yeah, just thank you, Madam Mayor. I also totally agree that there does need some enforcement up there, and years ago, being on the Zoning Board of Appeals, we approved a couple of businesses there. We knew they had some parking problems there, and there might be a condition that we brought up there that we can probably check also about the parking situation, but it's also the business owners, once they see an individual parking there that doesn't do business in their business, they could call the police, and the police will take notice and do what they have to do with her, ticket the car, or tow the car, whatever the case may be. So, thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next motion, if there's no objection, it's similar to that. Now we're moving to 604, which there was some confusion with that. The motion reads, City Council requests the city manager to have the proper department move the 15-minute parking sign in front of the building at 604 Central Street to a pole on the sidewalk. This already, motion by Councilor Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor signify by saying aye. This is right at 604, which there was some confusion with before. But this sign has been approved like 11 years ago. It's on the building. At the time, I guess the sign people put the sign on the building. It is legal, but the police keep coming and saying that the sign shouldn't be there. The sign is not legal. So just to set the record straight, this motion asks that that sign come off of the building and be put on a pole on the sidewalk, because the police are having some sort of a problem having that sign on the building. So that's in a nutshell what that is all about, okay? Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Thank you. Next motion and last motion, if there's no objection, this is a little bit longer. This is a motion by Councilor Mercia requesting the City Council Cable TV Subcommittee invite a representative of Comcast to their next meeting to explain the digital upgrade and complaints related thereto. Motion by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. If there's no objection, this is a little bit longer. There seems to be concern regarding the fact that we will be required to switch from analog to digital signals early this year. And I want to ask that this motion be referred to the Cable Subcommittee, Cable TV Subcommittee, of which Councilor Martin is the chair. Technically, the chair is the person that is represented at the LTC, so that would, in essence, be Councilor Martin. And it seems that there's many questions concerning this conversion, and is it all that we need is a simple signal converter? And we don't really know just exactly what's going on. What are we to expect? I don't think I know what we should expect. Shall we do nothing if we have a cable wire coming into our home? I was told that. Just what can we expect? Because I really don't know. What are the answers to our questions? And who do we call when we do have a question? Because at one time we had Jack Hall, who was our cable TV liaison between cable TV and the city. I don't think anybody has been replaced, and I know that Dave Fenton is the solicitor that represents us, but I don't know the schedule there. There seems to be no one that we can ask questions. There seems to be no one that we can even complain to. It appears to the many residents who call me that cable has removed all of us from the mix. I don't know where we're calling when we call cable. They don't seem to have that customer service. There's no personal customer service. At least I feel that. There's no feeling that the customer is important. And why should they? The cable utility is a monopoly. It's not like as if we're dissatisfied we can go elsewhere. We certainly can't. We're stuck, and they know it. Do we ever have the liaison? I want to know about that. Do we think we're going to replace that person? I bring this issue up primarily because of all the complaints that I have received on the subject of cable, and none frosted me more than to hear from a woman who had Comcast for her cable, her telephone, and her internet service. And when they converted over, they erased her very important voicemail message relating to the numerous orders from her husband's doctor. And incidentally, her husband had prostate cancer, and they were dealing with that issue. And it's not the mayor, but it was a woman that had a similar concern. And all the messages left from the doctor to her were erased. These important instructions were erased because an unprofessional service person was not properly trained. There was no one to turn to complain to in a complaint department. No one seemed to have really gave a damn. That is purely unacceptable to me that nobody even cared. What if it, as in my situation, that last message on that voicemail was of her husband's voice and it was obliterated? Thank God that someone knew what they were doing, because I had that similar situation, but it wasn't obliterated. And the thing of it is that's worse than anything else is nobody seemed to care when she told them about it, and that really frosted me. So I want to refer this motion to the Cable TV Subcommittee meeting and get someone from Comcast that gives a damn to see if they can relate to us. What are we going to expect? Who can we actually turn to? Because I don't know. And these are issues that I want to discuss at great lengths, but not here tonight. Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I think this is a good idea. It's a good motion, particularly in light of the fact that those individuals that have an analog television that's not set up for digital are going to be required to get a digital converter. And they're free, by the way, by federal, I believe it's federal law that every household, every subscriber is entitled to one free converter. In fact, it's funny, we just, we got our card today, and it's a voucher that you go to Radio Shack or some other, high-tech company that, but I think you're right. I think it's very confusing. I don't think anybody knows. I got to get a converter. Do I have to go down and, is it a box or is it, what is it? So I think it's a good motion, and I empathize with you, Madam Vice Chair, that, Comcast, they're not user-friendly. You get into the system and you press one button to the next, and you don't get a live person. And when you do get a live person, you don't get any straight answers. So it's probably good. We had some difficulty with Mass Electric in the past. We get a rep in here, and at least we had someone that we could go to, particularly the elderly folks that, it's technology changing, and it's confusing, and it's unsettling. So I'm going to support the motion. It makes a lot of sense to get some answers, for all of us.
Thank you. No further Councilor Kazanjian?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. While we're on the Comcast, I think a few weeks ago I mentioned that Verizon is coming in and doing cable also. Can we find out if they, so we can get some type of competition where Comcast is the only game in town right now for the cable, and maybe we can get Verizon in here and maybe be some type of competitive bid for the people also?
Thank you.
Okay.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Any further discussion? Mr. Manager, before we adjourn, is there a gang advisory task force community summit meeting
There's a summit meeting this
on April 10th?
April 10th
5 o'clock to 7
at
the
the
Boys and Girls Club.
Yes, and we urge all the citizens to attend, and certainly I've sent out an invitation to the city councilors, and it's an update on where we've been over the last roughly year of the gang advisory task force, which been we think has had tremendous success here in the city. We'll be detailing that in our future plans. So
Thank you.
We'd like everyone to attend.
Motion to adjourn by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Lenzi. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Good job.
Thank you. Thanks.